Hello, this is Wylam from Drone Rental Supply, and today we're going to do an introduction and review of the DJI Phantom 2 Vision Plus version 3. In this video, we're going to go over what does the Phantom 2 do really well, who's it for, and also a general overview. Now in front of us right now is the box for the version 3 of the Phantom 2 Vision Plus. And what's curious about it is that the version 2 of the Phantom 2 and the version 3 of the Phantom 2 come in about the same box. The only real difference that I can see is that when you buy version 3, the barcode here will say version 3. In the version 2 version, it won't actually say anything. So the next question we're going to try to answer is, who is this for? And I can tell you that almost anybody can own a Phantom 2 and fly it with confidence. If this is going to be your first quadcopter, this is an excellent choice. I know a lot of people in which they own cheaper quadcopters, and what happens is that they develop bad habits while flying those because it's so difficult to keep them in the air. So when I go fly with them on the Phantom 2, I have to break them of their bad habits. The only thing that I would say is that whoever owns the Phantom 2, they have to be responsible enough to know that there are a lot of places where these aerial drones should not go. So it's really a question of whether or not they're responsible enough. Now there is something to be said about being too easy to fly. A lot of times, a lot of people will think that they're masters of flying these things within a few tries, and then they're going to end up crashing the Phantom 2 because they were overconfident. So that is actually a risk that you have to remember when you're flying this. So we won't be doing an unboxing video of this particular review, but we will talk about all of the accessories and the product itself. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the propeller box. When you buy the Phantom 2, you get two full sets. So here's one set that we haven't opened, and here's the second set. So as you can see, when you buy the Phantom 2, you get a pair of silver ones, and then you have a pair of black ones. That's because two of the motors will rotate clockwise and the other two will rotate counterclockwise. So I want to point out a difference right now. When you purchase the version 3, the propellers are different than the ones that you get from the version 2. So this particular propeller is, there's an order number right here, which you're not going to be able to see because it's really small. But for the version 2 of the Phantom 2, it's 9443. And for the version 3 of the Phantom 2, it's 9450. So I just want you to be aware when you jump from version 2 to version 3 of the Phantom 2, it comes with two different propellers. Moving on to the other box, this large box actually contains three smaller boxes. So what you get is the manuals folder, you get the accessories box, and then you also get a charging box. So for the purposes of this review, we're going to go ahead and talk about the charging box and the accessory box. The manual box is self-explanatory. In the accessories box, what we get is this nice little silver pouch. And inside the silver pouches are basically parts that you would need if you were to ever crash your Phantom 2. So if you never crash your Phantom 2, you might not ever have to open that box. There is one tool in there that you might eventually need, and that's the wrench that comes in the box or in the pouch. So if you ever have a propeller on one of the motors and it was very difficult to take off, all you would do is you would use the wrench, hook onto the motor, and then now you have leverage to take off the propeller. So let's go ahead and talk about the controller in more detail. As I've already mentioned, the batteries on this controller is now rechargeable batteries. So when you turn it on, you have your power LED, and you can see how much charge is left on the rechargeable battery. The only bad part to this is that you can't remove the rechargeable battery. So if you ever run low on power, there's not going to be a quick way to fix this. The gimbals themselves remain the same. The only difference is that on the low throttle, it'll actually stick to the bottom. This will make a great safety feature. If you ever have your controller on, you need to actually go out to your Phantom, you can stick your throttle on the lower position. These switches out of the box don't do anything. You're going to have to go into the DJI application in order to program these switches. One thing new to the version 3 is this wheel right here. This wheel used to be on the application itself. This controls the tilt of the camera. This is not a zoom, this is a tilt. So you can go from 90 degrees and then you can point straight down. So very nice feature. So now you don't have to have it on the app in order to control the tilt of your camera. Moving up top is your video extender. It's the same video extender that you would get on your version 2 of your Phantom 2. So again, you just turn it on and this will give you extended ranges. One improvement I would have liked to see on the version 3 is I wish they would do the same LEDs for the video extender. So the last two items to talk about is the battery and the DJI Phantom itself. So the battery is a 5200 milliamp battery, and I typically get about 17 minutes of flight time, which is pretty good. In order to check the power of the battery, all you have to do is hit this button and it'll tell you the power is based on these LEDs. To charge the battery, all you have to do is use these prongs. When you're using the charger, there's actually no way to plug it in wrong. And also, when you plug it into the DJI Phantom, you can't plug it in wrong as well. There are two prongs right here, and they're made up with these two slots right here. So all you have to do is to push it in firmly. In order to turn on the Phantom 2, what you have to do is you have to push it once, and then push it again and hold. So for the purposes of this review, we're going to go ahead and shut it off and move on. So we're just going to quickly turn it off, which is push once again and then push it again, and it'll turn off the Phantom 2. So let's go ahead and talk about the DJI Phantom quadcopter. So the quadcopter is made of a hard plastic. Some people think it's cheap, but I think it's actually pretty well constructed. When you move it and you try to, move it around, it seems to be fairly sturdy. The motors themselves, as you can see, are colored differently. So there are two black motors and then there are two silver motors. This corresponds with the propellers that you get. So you want to match the silver ones with the silver tips. So there's a little directional pad, and all you have to do is spin the opposite direction until you can't spin it anymore. So this one here is a black one, and it goes on to a black tip motor. So you just put it on, spin it in the opposite direction of what is said on the actual body itself, and that's all you need. You don't really need to tighten them, because as they spin, they self-tighten themselves. If you look at the bottom of the Phantom, what you get is this nice gimbal system, and this is the reason why it's so expensive, is that in order to get all that nice smooth video, there's several functions that are going on that makes this such a smooth capturing video system. So the first thing you'll see are these vibration dampening units right here. So as the quadcopter flies, these vibration dampening units will soak up all the vibrations when it's flying. The next thing that you'll see is the gimbal system. So as it's flying, the gimbal will adjust to the angle and the pitch that the quadcopter is flying at, and what that makes for is a very, very smooth flying experience for your video. If you look over here, what you see is a small micro SD slot. It comes with a 4 gigabyte SD card included, which is always nice, so you don't have to go get a new one if you don't have one available. And if you want to, you can also plug in a micro USB cable and get the video straight from the quadcopter instead of having to take it out from the SD card. Really, this combines together to make a very, very nice video capturing system. So we talked about each individual component by itself. So let's go ahead and put all of this together and tell you why it's such a great aerial unit and why it's such a recommended buy. The drone itself, or the quadcopter, is such a great aerial unit because of the GPS and flight control system. As you can see, we have it turned on, But if we were outside, these lights will eventually turn green. And once it turns green, it tells you that it has GPS lock. And once it has GPS lock, it's very easy to fly. It feels more like a radio control car in which you can control the height that you're flying than it is to a traditional aircraft. On the controller side, what's great about the DJI Phantom 2 is the app. The app itself, if you look at the app itself, it has a number of great features. So up at the top right here, you can see the battery. Right now, it's about halfway through its life cycle. And then it can tell you when you should land. So typically, like I was saying, it'll last about 17 minutes. Over here, it shows that we have Wi-Fi connectivity from the controller video extender to our app. It says that we have an SD card in. We have 51% battery life, and over here we have 0 satellites. That's the reason why it's blinking yellow over there. We have 90% battery life on our video extender, and then it can show you how many pictures that we can take. These buttons right here are for taking photos and start recording. You can go into your settings menu, and what's really important is this bar down here, because this tells you some telemetry information, which is really important if you lose track of your quadcopter and you need to bring it back. So right now, this is kind of like a radar screen in which it's telling you which way the quadcopter is facing. So based on this controller sitting right here, it's telling you that the quadcopter is facing us, and it's practically right on top of this controller. So if you were to fly anywhere and you get lost, you can always look at this particular radar screen and fly it right back to you. You really should never have to use return to home if you know how to use this radar screen down here. This will tell you the distance away, the altitude, which is important, and how fast the quadcopter is moving. So as a complete package, this makes a great aerial unit, and it's highly recommended. We hope you enjoyed our review of the DJI Phantom 2 Vision Plus version 3. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. We also plan on doing an introductory beginner series and flight series for people new to this particular aerial aircraft. Hopefully you'll stick around and watch that. And until next time, thank you for your time and fly safe.